Today's guest is Cartwright Morris, who is a podcaster, certified leadership development coach, and a thought leader for men wanting to discover and define their life's purpose. He has worked with hundreds of emerging leaders in the US and abroad, and the host of the fast-growing podcast, Men Are Forged, a podcast for men feeling restless and disconnected in their life and their career. So, Cartwright, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's great to be here, Draska. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I'd love for you to just dive into, how you got to doing what you're doing, because obviously I have a lot of coaches and, heart-centered entrepreneurs that come onto the show. Like it kind of attracts that crowd. But I'm always curious, like how you got to doing what you're doing and how did you start the podcast and the coaching program?
Oh man. It probably goes back to, 10 years ago. I was working at a venture camp, leading ropes courses and different things like that. And a lot of the volunteer staff was college students. And so I would be, inadvertently mentoring a lot of these college students that were making big decisions in their next life or the next phase of their life. Right. And I just kind of found a niche, just asking good questions, helping them think through, wanting to encourage them to make big swings versus just doing what they're supposed to do. And just kind of found that niche, and then eventually got a mentor where he was coaching business leaders, and kind of felt the excitement and the niche into business a little bit, and helping leaders in that context create better cultures. And, that eventually snowballed into me working for a nonprofit and just kind of mentoring entrepreneurs, people who also are nonprofits, and kind of a mentoring role. But you kind of felt limited in that context because, as I found out, people tend to, when there's a need, when they are aware of their need, they're willing to pay for it, and they put skin in the game because they want help. Where when you're I was in the nonprofit space, you're kind of getting people that are like, kind of a third party is generally bringing them in. And so you don't really get that big humbling moment, that big moment that we all have that wants to create change. And when you really want to ask for help. And so going from the nonprofit into the for-profit space has really been a journey in the last, last 10 months. And yeah, it's been exciting. Yeah, I think there's just so much to do within coaching, but then also complement that as well, that I'm really excited about getting into. And just really kind of that heart of serve the person I used to be, that person kind of lost, discontent, just feeling aimless really in their life, and really wanting to give them something that's powerful, meaningful, where they kind of are able to block out the outside noise of culture and things, and really choose the life that they really want that's uniquely theirs. So
Absolutely. So it kind of sounds like there was this path of following the breadcrumbs, right? Everywhere I go, people seem to gravitate me to do this kind of thing. And then it sounded to me like it went from informal, relatively informal, to more and more and more and more formal, into now doing, your own thing and kind of figuring out, okay, these are the people that actually want to serve, especially when they're ready to make that actual change. So, well, number one, would that resonate with you?
absolutely. And I'm just I just kind of found in my late 20s just a natural curiosity for people and for life and experiences. And so it just kind of fit, right? So yeah.
Beautiful. So I'd love for you to dive into, because I'd mentioned the podcast that you run, Men Are Forged, and I'm assuming that that's the name of your program as well. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what is that all about? What's the message all about? If you could just enlighten us for that.
Yeah, what's great is there's just so many, specific to men. Like I said, serving the person I used to be. So generally, therefore, I lean towards men. And what's been valuable in my own life is hearing stories of men who have gone before me, hearing how failure is not as bad as you think, encouraging to take risks, to find their purpose, build mindsets that actually are stronger and more lasting than good behavior. And so just hearing those stories and asking questions along those lines, and there's been some great guests, people have wrote books, people have started businesses, people that are changing lives all over the world. And it's just fun just to kind of unpack their story and what led to their revelations and their life-changing moments that now here they have a platform and influence. And so that's generally the podcast is kind of the catalyst, and then trying to do other things with that, out, within that, the brand. So.
Got it. So then the coaching business, I'm assuming, is kind of the offshoot of that. Like that's where you get to dive into with the individual into these topics. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like what's the actual business and what are the challenges that you're running into right now?
Yeah. So the business is mainly coaching. I was hired on to a counseling firm back in October to join them. And it's kind of been, I was supposed to complement the counseling a little bit, but that the building the client base, getting my name out there. I feel like my brand is very different than the counseling firm. So therefore, they hired me because I thought the coaching would be, and it hasn't necessarily turned out like I hoped, but then it's led me to really start thinking broader than just coaching, and really provide other things that complement coaching and vice versa. Recently I got my LLC, and so really trying to kind of create my own brand in the context of, well, yeah, one, how do I, bring some level of income through the podcast? Because I am putting a lot of time and effort into it. But then that really being my main like avenue for advertising. So then that leads to then coaching clients, but then also like, all right, groups, maybe monthly, reoccurring charging of groups. And, one thing that I really am passionate about is leaders. And one of the things that I'm really seeing the doors open is clients who are like me wanting to leave the 9 to 5 and kind of create their own thing and really like create their own job that's more unique to them and not feel like they're making money for somebody else. And so really, yeah, how do I really utilize the coaching? All right, here's some clients that I meet with, maybe once a month. It's not a huge revenue thing. That's what they, but maybe provide something a little more substantial, that's a little more engaging, better margins for me, but also like it's more valuable to them because not only do they get my expertise, but they get the expertise of the group. People kind of doing the same thing and struggling. So I'm trying to, so really the model is podcast that leads to coaching. But beyond that, I'm trying to think of that third option really that maybe filters it back. So.
Got it. So how would you define the business problems that are in front of you right now? Like in your own words?
The business problems. Yeah. I mean, the big thing is, one, just getting the name out there. I feel very confident of getting people in the door and keeping them in the door, but it's like getting them to the door. So therefore sales, marketing, really branding myself and finding the right lingo of like, all right, this is what I'm giving. Because there's a lot of ways, like I could just get in a coaching session and just give my expertise, ask the right questions, give them the right advice, influence them in a way that they have something they've never thought of before. I have great testimonials from my clients, but what is it exactly I'm doing? I like to say defining purpose, and I have provided more intensive coaching sessions for people to do that, to help them define their purpose. But, some people just come in there and, and they're just looking for answers, whatever that is. And I don't necessarily feel like that's my niche. But yeah, I would say just getting people to the door, finding people how to find me, and also really thinking creatively and bigger. How do I think bigger and invite people into what I'm doing? I think probably something that's holding me back is just finding the right people to collaborate with. Though I get one-offs every now and then, but I think just finding, the right people to really partner with. So,
Got it. So tell me a little bit more about this sentiment of like, how do I think bigger or creativity? Like, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think you can get bogged. I mean, there's good days and bad days, right? um, I think, yeah, I get these random advice from people that, I do trust and value their opinion, but it's like, okay, how can one, serve my audience, my client better, provide them something that's really needed. Yeah, I need some water.
Sure.
But yeah, and then two, it's like thinking big. All right, so what is out there? What is the resource? And sometimes that's why I get too much into my head of like, am I actually providing something that's needed, or am I thinking, oh, somebody else is already doing this, so what's the point? But yeah, I think trying to think bigger and valuable, and is that do I need more money for better technology, or is that just really owning what I already do and doing it even better? So yeah, I don't know, Drasco. I mean, you're I'm sure you're used to people verbally vomiting on you, but that's what I feel like
It happens all the time. Yeah. It's all good. So okay, in the spirit of that and kind of fine-tuning the clarity a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we started that whole last segment with the question of like, okay, well, can you really elaborate on how do I think bigger? How do I think more creatively? And then it kind of went into, well, there's somebody else is like doing this kind of coaching. So you could argue that's actually limited thinking as opposed to I need to think bigger. Then you went into, well, do I need technology, or do I just need to own what I do? So what do you think for you is the string that ties all of those seemingly random thoughts together?
What is the string that ties them all together? I mean, there's that personal belief system about myself for sure. Of like, man, just excited about the content. I know I add value. So it's really just taking the next step, moving one step at a time. I think that's can be my own personal. Is sometimes I get too much in a hurry, and therefore anxiety kicks in, and then anxiety can shuts down the creativity, shuts down the forward thinking. But I think the thread is really like, like, all right, what, do you truly believe in this, and this is what you want to do, or you just want to pull the plug and do what you said you don't want to do? Is that's have a 9 to 5 and just kind of showing up and clocking in and leaving.
So in that space, do you actually believe in doing this?
Yeah. I've seen the fruit enough, like I've come far enough. I've, basically, it's no longer a toe in the pool. I'm waist deep. So,
okay. So when I say, do you truly believe in doing this? How do you define this?
Yeah, this, I would say, I like to say guidance. Like I'm guiding men into the next phase of their life. I'm guiding men amidst transition, which is always difficult, providing clarity and, I don't want to say safety, because I'm almost trying a lot of ways. I'm encouraging them to get out of the nest, right? To step into discomfort more, because on the other side is more of themselves. I think there's something about risk taking. I guess when I would preach to my client, I'd preach to myself, right? That I'm like, when you take risk, you find out, well, one, there's obviously failures, but that you find out more about yourself, and therefore you're more prepared to then find the success you're actually looking for. So
that's a very well articulated answer. But it's also kind of a non-answer, right?
Okay.
Because it was kind of like, okay, do I truly believe in this? Okay. And where I understood the context, and you can correct me, if I'm wrong here or call me out, I'm totally fine with that. Where I understood the context of where your brain was going with this was like, do I really believe in building this coaching business? Right. Where your mind went to with that was, do I really believe in the process of change that I have shown evidence that I can facilitate
Yeah.
very well? Okay. Basically putting a layer between you and your, like you said, owning what I do, which is building this coaching business.
Mm-hmm.
And it went into, well, of course I believe in the process because I've seen it. I've seen people
Yeah.
doing good things when I facilitate their change.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then really becomes not, do I believe in the process of change, but do you believe in yourself being the creator that facilitates a lot of change for a lot of people in a grand scale and makes a lot of money doing it?
Yeah, in all transparency, probably no. And I think that's something I've been really trying to fight for, you know.
So
It's probably one of the reasons why I moved from the nonprofit to the for-profit space is I had to test that belief.
yeah. And number one, I want to commend you on the honesty of it, right? Because that's the first part, taking the ownership, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, the reality is I don't really believe in me doing this. I believe in this, but I don't believe in me
Yeah.
doing this, right? It's kind of like that whole, this works, but it doesn't work for me, right?
Yeah.
There's a deeper layer to it. So number one, I commend you for acknowledging that in yourself. And if you rewind like the video and look at a conversation, there's a lot of split energy in what it is that you're talking about, right? Like you
Yeah.
mentioned the word like verbal diarrhea, right? That happens because we lack clarity in what's inside of our heads, which is fine. That's part of this process. So
Yeah.
no judgment there by any stretch of the imagination. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just everything you were talking about was split between, well, how do I think bigger, but then I kind of think limiting, and then somebody else is doing this, but then I should take ownership. Like it was just always like there's the good and it's kind of second person, and then there's like the, well, I'm kind of not showing up in the way that I need to be showing up. So really the core essence of it is this sentiment of, from the outside looking in, this works, it just doesn't work for me. So how does all of that land for you?
I think that's correct. Because I think the question is, as I've always thought, is, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be in coaching, but I do believe in the practice.
So
Hmm.
when you hold that thought and when you hold that narrative, how does that feel in your body?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't feel well. It feels tense. It feels yeah. Hmm.
And where does it feel tense in your body?
Mainly my chest and my head. Yeah.
So kind of mid chest, like if you describe more specifically, like what would you say?
Yeah, kind of upper mid chest. Yeah.
And what about your head?
Yeah, kind of right around the temple.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned migraines at the beginning of this call before we started um, recording. So does that tension feel similar to the migraines you normally get, or you don't think they're related?
They might be somewhat, but no. I mean, yeah, I mostly get migraines in the back of my head versus the
The
tension
front
and
of the head.
stress
Okay.
tension is right there. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. So if you could tune into that tension through the chest and like all around the temples,
Mm-hmm.
if that tension could talk, what might it say?
Mm. If the tension could talk, what might it say? That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, help me understand this question a little bit better. What do you?
So the cool thing about questions like this, they're not actually about understanding, they're actually
Yeah.
about tuning.
Yeah.
So um what I would answer back to you for the clarification is step back and allow yourself not to mentally understand the process or judge how tension in my chest could speak, but rather tune into a part of you that right now is showing up physiologically in tension in your chest and in your head, and see if there's something there to explore. If there isn't, cool, like we can move on. But if there is, there might be something there for you to look into deeper.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I feel like the tension is really related just to the hope I feel in doing this.
Okay. So tell me more about that. What do you mean by hope?
Uh, really the connection of potential opportunity, excitement, that hits up, I guess, that to that limiting belief.
Okay.
Um,
So would it be safe to say that the tension is from these two forces, one being hope, one being limitation or constriction? Like, would that be
yeah,
accurate?
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. And what does that part of you need to release the tension?
Yeah, I think I guess belief in or really I feel like beliefs to sometimes and it is a strong word, but maybe more of like a conviction about what I'm doing.
Okay.
Mhm.
And are you open to diving deeper into that?
Yeah, why not? I'm here, right, Draska? So
All right, fair enough. So, what I recommend for you right now, just to get a little bit out of your head, because I can see that you're very intellectual, like you can articulate well. Like I can see that that's the part of you that has led to the success you have experienced so far, right? But when it comes to diving into this other intelligence, I think there's a little bit of hesitation, which is natural. And then also kind of like I don't really know what to do, right? So are you okay to dive into it that way and see where it leads?
let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So what I invite you to do then is if you could just place the hand on your chest, so kind of like where that tension actually was.
Mhm.
Um, if you're comfortable, I would invite you to close your eyes just to kind of limit the stimulus. Okay, perfect. So what I invite you to do now, just breathe into that tension in your chest. So I'm gonna let you do that for 3 breaths. Just go in your own pace for them. And then on the third breath, I want you to just follow the breath down right to like the center of that tension. And when you feel like your awareness is there,
Yeah.
okay, I want you to ask that tension what it needs right now in this moment.
All right. What does this tension need? What do you need, tension?
And I would prompt you to listen for the answer coming more from the body, less from your head. And it'll kind of be like, it's just a different, you could say, flavor to it when you are receiving this information.
Hmm. Would you like me to say just kind of a word that I really sensed?
Whatever comes out comes out. So absolutely.
Expansion.
Expansion. Okay. And what does expansion mean to you?
Hmm. Hmm. I'm trying not to be too heady here, so I know exactly what you mean. The first person to give me that feedback.
Yep.
um, I think expansion is just, yeah, all the excitement that I feel of opportunities and things that I want to do. Yeah, to go for it. to expand, to grow, to ask, to build, to, yeah. In
And
some ways, not even worry about the outcome.
okay,
Stop trying
fair.
to plan it out in my head.
Right. So like I don't know the full path. I don't know all the check boxes need to be hit. I don't know the full breakdown and blueprint before I actually make the steps forward. Right. That's kind of what expansion seems to resonate. Okay. Does that feel less constricting than originally?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So it feels a lot lighter through your chest. What about your head?
Yeah, head, there's definitely some release. Yeah, but like I said, I still dealing a little bit of migraine. So you're kind of,
Yeah,
but
that's fair. Yeah. I asked that question. Just sometimes they are related, sometimes they're not. I just want to make sure. Um, what I want to just bring to your awareness right now, right? There are a lot of limiting narratives that are kind of default in your head right now, right? It's kind of that split energy we talked about. Could be this, could be that, could be this, could be that, could be it just constantly, you know, here's an expansive thought. Let's balance it out with the constrictive thought, right? Like you don't necessarily need to, like, I think big, but then I act small. I think big, but I have limitations. I lack creativity, but I have a lot of vision for what I want. You know what? Like it just always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The result of that is like just like a net. I'm staying the same. For every plus one thought, I have a negative one thought, right? It just always kind of staying the same. This is experienced in your body as tension, right? That's kind of the experience you had where on the one hand, there's hope. On the other hand, there's this, hesitation. They're always at odds with each other, very much like they are in your head, right? So physiologically, that tends to manifest as tension, right? Because nothing's really moving because there's too much tension, there's too much friction for the energy to actually move through and allow for that expansiveness to happen. When you allowed yourself to tune in to kind of this less languagey wisdom inherent in your body, inherent in your nervous system, it allowed you to tune into, okay, well, what does this tension actually need from me? What wants to emerge from me as a lesson from this tension? In your instance, that came out as expansion, right? Like what wants to emerge from you is expansion across the board, much less planning, expanding into self-trust, expanding into holding the space and the capacity for my power, expanding into actions that reflect this part of me that deep down wants to be expressed. That allows attention to go away because it's like, yes, like this is more of this. And it's actually going to be powered much more. Like in this instance, I helped you facilitate it. But let's just say when you're on your own, the driving force for this is not going to be your head. It's actually going to be your courage, and it's actually going to be your heart. Your head is the part of you that's just going to fill in the details when these two parts of you are in sync. So I know that was kind of a lot thrown your way. How does all that land with you?
No, it's good. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And which part resonates the most?
It's going to take my courage is what needs to lead this. Yeah.
And how can you
constantly overthinking? Yeah.
Yeah. And how can you tap into that more on a day-to-day basis?
I think I got to explore ideas,
And where does exploring of ideas happen normally?
in reality.
Is it in reality or is it in your head?
Well, oh yeah, for me, normally it is exploring it amidst of thoughts and thinking out, planning out every little detail. And I think I need to put it into reality. Yeah.
So that's the reason I want to draw it to your attention, right? Because here you are at the precipice of the expansion. You see where you need to go. The question now was, okay, how do I exercise the courage? I exercise the courage by exploring ideas in my head, essentially visualizing and fantasizing, i.e., using the part of me that kind of needs to actually take a back seat right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't point this out to, I mean, I am calling you out, but it's more I'm actually calling out the resistance part of you that doesn't want to exercise the courage. Because courage only exists in the face of fear. It doesn't exist prior to like eliminating the fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? So your expansion, your practice of this is only going to exist in actually the execution of whatever silly, small, big, small, in the middle idea you have. It's not actually going to exist in your head. And that was just an example of, for everybody, like how tricky resistance actually is. Like I just realized the issue. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to do the exact same thing I've always done, but I feel better about it. Right.
Yeah.
And we're all guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to highlight it because it's the trickiest part we have to overcome.
No, I would say the same thing to my clients,
Yep.
Want something different. You got to do, you got to do something different.
Absolutely. So I know that was kind of a lot thrown your way. Does that feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
I think that, I'm just still, I think, definitely I think there's a good application here for sure. Like, but man, I'm just like, what does courage look like? And maybe that is me just trying to figure it out. But, and maybe I'm too dependent on clarity right now, but.
So what would be, like, can you think of a scary thing to do right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What would it be?
Big scary would be an idea of starting a business that, and really the idea has been rattling around my brain for the last 2-3 months, and is, because there's all of these men's organizations just in my local area that are older, that have a older bent to their thinking and development, and they're missing out on a whole young audience because they're unwilling to engage in podcasts and social media.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I've been thinking of ways, how do I create this business to almost be like a consultancy to these organizations?
Okay. And this would be something that is like, it wouldn't really be the coaching that you mentioned at the beginning. This would be something.
Yeah, I think I would
else.
use coaching skills. It may lead to coaching clients, but no, it's I think it's something I've been thinking about as someone who's been doing a podcast, thinking through. Yeah, but yeah. So you want to talk about big? This is something I just constantly think about. So.
Okay. And what's the first action you could take towards that?
I don't know. I've been thinking through a lot of different ones. Is it getting capital? Is it creating a pitch deck? Is it
Do you have like, I'm assuming you have some sort of social media or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any followers on there that would fit the bill of who you just described?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
So how would it feel to go live right now and just tell them what it is that you're doing and who you're looking for, and if they want to work with you, to just send you a DM?
Yeah. It's a great idea. Yeah.
Do you want to do it live on air right now?
Oh, live here. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Oh,
can.
so you're saying pick up my phone and just say going live.
Yeah. I will record you going on your phone and being like, "Hey, I'm Cartwright. This is what I do. This is who I'm looking for. And if you're interested, send me a DM and let's talk."
All right. Let's
All
see.
right. And you also get to be
even
the first person that I've had somebody do this live on air. So
Oh, wow.
there you go.
Okay. What am I going to say? I don't even...
That's exactly my point. I don't want you to think about it. I want you to just do it.
Nebraska, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. All right, here we go.
All right.
So let's see. 11 followers active.
Beautiful.
Connect.
Floor is yours.
All right. I'm here on this podcast with my main man, Drasco here. Yes, right now, I've been thinking through an idea. I'm done thinking and I'm ready to, just put my services out there. If anyone who is looking for some type of podcast consulting that is in the Birmingham area, that is desiring to grow in their influence to a younger audience, this is the time. Reach out to me, DM me. Would love to help get your, podcasts, get videos going. Most men watch videos all the day long. They are not, so so let's think about videos and podcasts, and I'd love to help you out. So just DM me at Men Are Forged. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. All right, do I click off now? What do I do?
Yes, you do. All right. Very nicely done.
My wife just waved at me. That's funny.
There you go. Well, I mean, okay, so you got one guaranteed viewer, which is always good.
Yeah. I don't know how to turn this off. How do I turn this off? Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Thanks, Rasco. Yeah.
How was that?
Feels good. Yeah. Yeah. Failures are
all
weird
that
thing.
Deliberation and thinking into 30 seconds of action. There you go. That was the answer to your question of I don't know what courage it looks like. you just exhibited it right now. So
put it right there. Yeah.
Well, on that high note, again, I just want to thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing up. Clearly, courage, it's like fear factor. Like fear is not a factor for you. If anybody's watched that show before, regardless, I just want to commend you for doing that. You are the first one that I had that happen on the podcast. So kudos to you for that as well.
Yeah.
And then if you can just, in your own words, sum up, what your takeaways were from this experience, what awarenesses you have, and any highlights, just in your own words to kind of close us off. Floor is yours for that.
Yeah, I think Drasco, thank you. You did a good job just to hearing the right things that I need to pay attention to. And the thing that I'm really kind of resonating with is I do get too much in my head, and I've probably gotten that feedback way too many times. And thinking about the planning, and this creates anxiety. It creates things that don't lead to what I'm really moving towards. And I think, I think that word courage has been coming up more and more in my life. And I think more than ever, I think I'm going to put that at the forefront. Just kind of run head first. Let's go. Be excited about what I'm doing, because I am. I mean, all the things that I'm doing, and I just, and I'm going to stop. I keep trying to put the butt in there, but I'm going to go for it. So
beautiful. Love it. All right. Well, in that case, you can just close this off with, who's the best person to find you? Where can they find you? Floor is yours for that.
Yeah. So menareforged.com. You can jump on there if you're looking for coaching or anything like that. I'm on all my I'm on Instagram. I'm on at menareforged.com, and my podcast, of course, on Apple and Spotify, as well as YouTube. So just hit me up, DM me if there's something that resonated with you today. Check out the podcast. So anyway, I'm trying to turn off my head right now, Drasco. So you got me spinning right now. So
okay, don't worry, we will close this off so you can decompress. But yes, thank you very much for coming on. Again, thank you very much for the courage that you did exhibit. And listen to my post recording blurb. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.